Hey everybody, Scott. Welcome back to the One-Off Shop. Today I'm very excited to bring you our next tasty treat. Remember I told you last time we were going to fill this with some goodness? Vanilla blueberry crumble parfait. That's what you want to call it. But what really gets me excited about today's meal, or today's dessert rather, we get to use power tools. See you in a minute. Okay, let's make our fruit crumble. First thing you want to start off with is a half a cup of, I'm using frozen blueberries. You can choose whatever fruit you want. Start off with frozen, it'll make your crumble turn out better. We're going to do 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. Over there. There we go. Teaspoon of nutmeg. I'm going to do half a cup of sugar. Half a cup of all-purpose flour. That nutmeg is earthy. It'll help bring out the flavor of the blueberries. Alright, and then 3 tablespoons of cold butter. You don't want this to get whipped together. You want it to cream up like you're doing pie crust. Alright, let's get that on the old food processor. We'll get it pulsed up and we'll see where we're at. Alright, let's go. I've got everything in the food processor here. Let's go ahead and crumble it up. You just want to pulse this. You don't want to go on continuous. If you go continuous, you're going to wind up heating up that butter and it's going to melt in there, and then you're just going to have a sticky mess. So once everything's crumbled up good, then you're going to add the secret ingredients. What my mom always swore by to make a crumble. First thing we're going to add is 1/3 cup of grape nut cereal. Next we're going to add 8 Biscoff cookies. If you don't have Biscoff cookies, you can always use graham crackers. It's probably going to be about a half a pack equivalent to that. Alright, let's pulse that. And just keep pulsing it until everything looks uniform. Alright, and we're done. Go ahead and pop off our lid. Move our blade a little bit. Now it's going to seem, sorry, I live in a tiny home. Alright, so it's going to seem like it's a little wet. And it will stick together if you grab it. But once you've got it to this point where it's just nice and crumbly and everything's well mixed, dump it out on a cookie sheet. You get it spread out real good. Then pop it in your 350-degree oven. It's going to be 15-20 minutes, something like that, depending on your oven. Okay, this next part's real easy. I just got a box of the cook and serve type pudding. Really not a big fan of the instant. It just doesn't taste right to me. So a regular box of this cook and serve vanilla pudding. Go ahead and prepare it by the directions. 3 cups of milk. Dump this in. If you want, you can add a little nutmeg to it. And a little trick my mom taught me to make your pudding a little creamier. You can add some heavy cream to it in place of some of the milk, or like in my case, I have powdered heavy cream. I go ahead and add about 2 tablespoons of this to my mix before I dump it into the milk and get it all mixed up. Makes for a smoother pudding. Really tastes good. Okay, this next step's pretty easy. Got 3 cups of milk in the pan. Put it on medium heat. When you do cook and serve pudding, where most people mess up is they try to heat it up too quick. This is a process. It's going to take time. Medium heat. Add your 2 tablespoons of heavy cream powder to your pudding mix and go ahead and dump that in. Another thing people want to use when you're doing cook and serve pudding, it's something you have to stir constantly. You don't want to walk away from this stuff. Trust me, you can ruin a pan instantly by burning this stuff. Get one of these silicone spatulas or silicone scrapers. They're great. That way you can constantly go back and forth across the bottom of the pan. And just keep going back and forth. Your stuff's all going to mix in eventually. And then once it does, just bring it to a low boil on your medium heat. Like I said, it's going to take a while. But once it gets to a boil, leave it at a boil for probably a good 60 seconds. I'll see you when we're boiling. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes or so. We're just about to the boiling point. You can usually tell when you're scraping your rubber spatula or your silicone scraper against the bottom of your pan. It'll feel like a little bit scratchy. That's where the pudding's trying to stick to the bottom. That's why you have to keep stirring constantly. But it'll start to thicken up as you drag your spatula through there. You'll see it doesn't fill in quite as quick behind it. And while you're stirring it, you don't get all the waves in it. It's starting to thicken up. Now when we're done, we're going to strain this into a bowl. You always want to do that with cook and serve pudding because inevitably, no matter how good you do this, you're going to get those little hard bits across the bottom. It just happens. You never can tell. And you always want to treat this stuff like molten sugar. It is super, super hot and it will stick right to you. So be very careful. Okay, we boiled our pudding for about 60 seconds. Now we're going to take it up off. We're going to pour it through this strainer into the bowl. Let's just make sure you don't get any of those little sticky bits that are going to be in the bottom of the pan. And trust me, they're going to be there. Alright. See there? It's going to stick no matter what you do. But you got to minimize the lumps by doing all the scraping. And then feeding it through a sieve into your bowl. I prefer to use either a metal or a glass bowl when I do my pudding. Plastic, for some reason, it has nothing to do with the heat. Plastic will breathe and you'll start developing a skin on the inside and you'll dig down into your pudding and you'll get a big hunk of skin off the side of the bowl where it was underneath the surface. Weird. Prefer metal, glass, whenever you're doing your puddings. Now when you do your pudding, so you don't want to get a skin on it, you want it to cool off, you get your saran wrap, put over the top of it, make sure it's all down against the skin, and then stick it in the fridge. We'll be back when it's time to serve. Okay, we're back. It's been about 25 minutes. My crumble was still just a tad wet at 20 minutes, so let's go ahead and pull it out of the oven and we'll see what we got here. All right. Take a little plastic fork here and we'll try roughing it up some. Oh yeah, it's falling apart good. It might still be just a touch wet, and that's okay if it is. Alexa, cancel timer. All right, so just keep going till you get it all busted up. And it'll crumble, it'll fall apart. Just keep hitting it, because as it cools, it's going to stiffen up. So get it into a pile, Work it around a little bit. Just keep chopping at it. It'll start falling apart as it cools. Alright, after it's cooled for about 10 minutes, it's going to start falling apart. Like I said, take a look at that. You see it's nice and crumbly. And it'll continue to dry out. You can go ahead and keep it in a sealed container if you want. And this will keep for probably about 5-6 days. Alright, when we come back, we're going to be setting up our parfait and doing our closing. Okay, we had the pudding in the fridge for a couple hours, letting it get set up. Looking really nice. Yummy vanilla pudding. Alright, so what we're going to do, being as we're doing this parfait style, is we're going to take some of the crumble and we're going to throw that in the bottom. Hear that? It turns into a really nice crumble. Alright, so we got us a little layer there on the bottom. Let's spoon in some of our pudding. We'll just spread that around a little bit. Give us a little base. We'll put just a little more in there. All right. Let's add some more of this crumble. Now, I don't have any parfait glasses, which is what you would probably want to do these in. All I have is this big goblet. But you could do it in something like this, and then, like set this in the middle of your dessert table or whatever, or just, stick a big spoon in it and let multiple people, get after it, because they're going to love it, trust me. All right. Get some more of this pudding out of here. I did not get all the pudding out for this because it's not going to take all 3 cups. I only got a couple cups out. Alright, so we'll just spread that out in there. Go ahead and get the rest of our pudding in there. Like I said, you can do this with whatever kind of fruit that you want to do it with. You can change this however you want to change it. That's the whole thing. The whole premise of the channel. What if we did this? What if we did that? Then you take my one-off and you turn it into your one-off. That's the whole thing. I want to make simple stuff that anybody can make. We'll put just a little more of this crumble on the top here. Stick a nice piece right up in the middle there. There we go. Vanilla blueberry crumble. Excellent. Well, let's give it a shot here. What do you say? Here we go. Hope you can hear the crunch. The grape nuts really bring out the crunchy in the crumble. If you don't put the grape nuts in there and you don't quite cook it as long, you'll get a more moist crumble. That's something you would put on top of muffins. So if you want, leave the grape nuts out, reduce the cooking time down to about 15 minutes. It'll give you a nice moisture crumble that you can use on top of cakes or muffins or whatever. You add the grape nuts, cook it a little longer, you get a nice crunchy crumble that you can add to anything. Alright, so that's the video. Please like, subscribe. This is what I'm doing for a living now. So please hit my Patreon up. I really appreciate it. And next week, I haven't decided yet whether we're going to do savory or sweet. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what kind of a dish you'd like next week. And one last thing, I'm sure you noticed the graphics behind me. Of course, we got the logo. Then we got the one that says, remember the 6P rule. Something I learned in the military. Staff Sergeant Chancey used to chant about this all the time. The 6P rule. prior planning prevents piss poor performance. You live by the 6P rule, especially in the kitchen, you'll be doing good. Until next time, let's turn some what ifs into some what offs.